What is that? Bomber Vintage Bomber 7F. The Fat A. We're talking fat boys today. Good stuff. Are you ready to run and gun? It's time for blast off. Let's go. Hey guys, Todd here. Welcome back to Bassin 101, where I try to make fishing simple for everybody. I try anyway. I don't always succeed, but at least I try. Wow, part 3 in the crankbaits and the simplify your fishing thing. I told you this might take a while, but there's just a lot of different kind of baits to cover. But today, we're talking fat boys. I don't mean Harley Davidsons. I mean fat boys. The last one I did was on skinny baits. Okay, so here's the fat and the skinny of it. That's corny, I know. Fat body baits are more buoyant, generally speaking. Okay, not always, because they can be weighted to not be as buoyant. Some have rattles, some don't. A lot of these fat body baits will pull the shorts off your butt trying to crank them. Some don't pull that bad at all. Yeah, that's kind of strange. What do you think? Well, that doesn't make sense. Didn't make sense with the flat body baits either, did it? Because the flat sided baits, some had a wider, almost a wobble to them compared to others having a wiggle. These are the same way, okay? So again, comes to profile, what the bass want. Do they want the wider stuff? Do they want the narrower stuff? Because I've got baits here to do all that. And they're all fat. And they're all fat dudes, okay? So I'm going to kind of explain these a little bit so you can kind of get an idea what's going on here. Again, rattles to me really doesn't matter one way or the other, because some of these rattle, some of these don't. Some of these pull, some of these don't. Now, let's start with the 7F. As you can see, now, by the way, guys, these are gone, okay? But you can still find them on eBay. The design of this bill is very similar to what they use on the 7As, the 8As, stuff like that. This does not pull as bad. This is also very fat. It's loaded with BBs, kind of like a rattle trap in a way. And these things will go float up quick. So these are really good around cover. A lot of guys love these baits for cover. And me personally, I like the 7F. I like the big dude, because it has a lot of contact area in it that bass can see and they can grab it. Now, sticking with the plastic stuff, another fat body bait, magwort. The magwort, again, fat body bait, has more of a squared off type lip. It's not really a square lip, but it reflects better. And the cool thing about this is it's kind of in between as far as hard to pull or not hard to pull. It's kind of in between that. The regular wiggle wart is actually a pretty easy bait to throw as far as cranking it. It doesn't really, give off a lot of force as you're trying to crank that thing. But this kind of does a little bit, but it's not that bad. So this is kind of a good in-between type of fat body crankbait. You can see, I think it's pretty fat. Another one that's also in the plastic family are, I love these baits, the original bomber. This one, like the rest of them, just has one rattle. One BB just bounces around the whole entire thing. There's no chamber that it sits in. Metal lip. And man, you want to talk about a weedless crankbait. That's what you use around wood cover. These kind of baits. I like the crawfish patterns the best. Any kind of a coach dog. The naturals, these came out around 1980, I think. I think it's around the 80s when I first started seeing them in Bassmaster. As far as the photo patterns. But you can use shads, chartreuses. I even like the fire tiger a lot when the water's really dirty. I like just the bright fire tiger that they have. This is about the smallest size I'll throw because this is the smallest size they make that still floats. As you start going down in size, they tend to actually sink, which is pretty cool. But it loses some of its weedless characteristics to it because this bait actually runs about like that in the water. Okay. But again, another fat body bait. These are pretty easy to crank. You would think with that really big bill that they'd be hard to crank and being straight off plane dead center on the center line of this bait. No, these actually crank pretty good. So if you're a fast burner, this might be your deal. But if you're a finesse type guy, you like to stop and go and pull and this, that, and the other, that's going to be your bait and cover. I'm telling you. Unfortunately, sorry guys, these are gone. But either one. I kind of like the plastic better just because it has the rattle in it. That's just me. Now, another fat body bait that everybody's familiar with, and of course these are also gone. Post 400 series. Or actually the 300 series too. But the 400 series. Now you think, man, that's a big old crankbait. That's going to pull your britches off right there. Actually, no. These are pretty easy to crank. But if you're a burner, that could be your bait. Really. I mean, because you can actually burn these pretty good. But any kind of deep diving crankbait, be careful burning them because you can actually put enough water pressure on them to where you'll actually kick them upwards and then they have the dead stick effect in the water. That's quoting Bill Dance from 1989, I think is what that is. One of the videos I got of him. But he's right. If you put too much water pressure on there, it will go back like this. It'll dead stick in the water. I've seen him do it. Either that or it just goes like this. And you don't want that. So, deeper baits like this, if you're a burner, these aren't going to be your baits. But you can try them, see what they do. The old Bagley B3. This does pull. Okay, it's not as bad as some of the baits I've thrown, but this dude will pull. It'll thump. So if you're a burner, don't waste your time with this because you try to burn this bait, you might as well pull your trolling motor up in your boat because you'll be able to pull your boat wherever you want to go with this bait. I ain't kidding. If you're fishing a john boat or a kayak, you try to throw a bait like this, you better anchor. I'm not kidding. You better throw an anchor out there. This will pull you. Now, let's go to a little bit shallower. Okay. A little bit shallower, say 8 to 10 feet deep. We have, boom, the original Bagleys. These are from the 1970s with the weighted bill. Straight angle off the lip. Kind of thin through here in design. These don't pull as bad. Okay, but this is a finesse crankbait. This is not something you want to burn. So if you're a burner, baits like this, because there's some custom balsa makers that make stuff like this, and I am really seriously considering copying these because I know how it's designed, I know how it's weighted and everything. So I'm really seriously considering maybe making something like this. I even know how to do the little trick with the weight and stuff. I got a die set up that I made myself for these, just in case I ever wanted to build them. Great lure, but more finessey. Okay, but it's still a fat body bait. These are about 7/8 thick, so still a fat body bait. Now the last few baits, let's go shallower. Okay, this one here is a very fat bodied type bait with a big square bill. And he also has a line tie right in the bill too. So it's going to pull this dude down about 4 or 5 feet deep for a square bill. Not a burner. Now you ask me, why is it not a burner? You see how wide the lip angle is right there at the body joint? That's going to have a little bit of pull to it. It's not bad. Okay, it's not bad. But not a burner. Okay, if you're a finesser, that's going to be your bait right there. Now, I'm not trying to discourage you guys who burn crankbaits to not buy fat body baits. Because there's some out there, like the... I keep wanting to go back to the older baits or discontinued because I'm not going to lie, I'm just more familiar with stuff like that. But there is new baits out there, new fat body baits, Strike Kings and things like that, that are good. You know, square bills, the fat body square bills, the 1.5s, the 2.5s, the 3.5, stuff like that. You can burn them. Yeah. You know, I don't have any really available. I actually do have some 2.5s, and some 3.5s. I just don't have them really available with me right now. They're packed up in storage. Like, I'm sure a lot of your stuff is too. This is just stuff I just happen to have on hand. Here's another fat body bait. But this lip is a little more narrow towards the body. You can burn these. They're going about 3 or 4 feet deep. You can burn them dudes. So you're good there. So don't worry about that. So, you know, again, look at the design of the baits. Okay, the more wider the joint is at the body, the wider the bill is, that's probably going to pull. The more narrow it is, a lot of times it's an easier bait to burn. I'm not saying they're all like that. Every bait has its own deal, because the line tie at the nose versus a line tie at the nose versus a line tie at the bill, huge difference in action. Okay, so keep that in mind. Now, last but not least, we have the Big Daddy, the Bagley B3 original with the smaller lip. Now, these are from the 80s. The old ones, which I've got those two, have a little bit bigger lip and have a little bit different action to them. They're a little harder to pull. This bait's not that bad. It'll still pull. It has a wide wobble to it, and it's still, if you're trying to burn this as fast as you can, you're going to have a hard time. So, again, a finesse guy, that's going to be more, see how the bill is? That's going to be more up your alley. You can see how thick that is at the body joint. However, you can fish them a little faster too. So experiment. Now, go back to my original bait of the day here. The thing about crankbaits that you have to remember, some guys like baits that pull. Yeah, it just rips the bottom of your boat out as you're trying to crank it. Some guys love stuff like that. I don't. I like baits that are a little easier to throw. If I have a thumper, I prefer to finesse it. But that's just the way I fish. Okay? And we haven't even hit on combos. That's coming down the road too. You know, as far as what kind of rod and reel do you want to throw. So that's the fat boy scenario. You know, if I'm trying to hold all these things together and, you know, try and get all this different stuff. Yeah, there's a lot of chartreuse there and everything else, because, you know, a lot of times you fish these things in stained water. But there's, you know, I got a lot of shad patterns too. So regardless, you know, chartreuse, greenback, you know, your typical Homer patterns, which are these. These are your typical Homer patterns. Chartreuse, greenback, orange belly, called Homer. They're kind of a standard crankbait color. So is your white with gray back, chartreuse blue back, chartreuse brown back, like that. You know, just typical shad colors. These to me are what you just call shad colors, because I've seen a lot of gizzards that have a chartreuse sheen to them in certain watercolors. especially like if you like a iced tea kind of color water where you have a lot of weeds and get that tannic look to it. Gizzard shad will get that kind of a chartreuse little sheen to them. So that's actually a good color. Everybody thinks, well, you know, it's clear water, you should be using clear bait. Well, not always, because sometimes bait fish will take on a kind of a chartreuse kind of effect to it. So that's something you just have to figure out for yourself. Again, keeping it short, guys. I really am. I'm trying to keep these things as short as I can. So you got your skinny minis, and now you got your fat boys. Not sure what I'm going to do on the next one, but I'm definitely going to try to hit another topic when it comes to crankbaits anyway. We haven't even discussed lines yet. Still a ways to go, guys. Again, please listen to yourself. Please don't be so, you know, well, my gosh, I done bought half the store out of this one crankbait, and by golly, I'm going to throw it in that box. But are you going to throw it? That's the point. Are you going to throw it? Because if not, throw them on a rack and just keep them for backstock. Maybe 10 years down the road, you might decide you want to throw them. But if you do, you got them. You ain't got to worry about going to eBay to find them now, do you? So think about that for a minute. So, as always, guys, hit the subscribe button. Tell your friends about the channel. We're growing. To you guys that are brand new, welcome aboard. I'm glad to have you guys. I really am. Looking forward to hearing from you. So, as always, tight lines. May the Father bless you and keep you in Yeshua's name. And as always, backwards, fish on.